Hello there. Part 3, which is going to replace the current part 3 of Grails Vue.js. I've actually done this video just a moment ago and I finished it. And when I clicked save, it said you haven't started recording yet. This is why all these are open, because I've been through it and unfortunately I've got to go through it again. So, part 3. I have found a Vue.js mastery course and I've taken their stuff and added it to this project, and it does all this. I'm not sure why it's not allowing me to add it to cart at the moment. Out of stock, because I've been bashing it. That's probably why. Okay, shipping free, and that's based on, you'll have to follow it, but it's based on if you're a VIP or whatever. And reviews, you can make a review, and that appears here. You can make other reviews as well. So 2 reviews. I've taken some of these concepts and I've fixed some of the problems that I had with what I was trying to do. So I've done a lot of updates as part of today. And it's really mainly around rental and custom, but I want to talk through some of the other stuff that I've missed out and not talked through properly. When you see these deals, there are 2 queries in vehicle rental controller or service, and one of them does a roundup of the vehicle types and groups them up by minimum costs and gives you an overall. And when you click it, it kind of redefines a search based on the criteria of this make and model, returns all the different Nissan Titans, or Nissan Leaf in this case. And that's where these costs are coming from, the minimums and maximums that you see. In the previous video, the rating was 1 rating, and if someone said 5, it was 5. If someone said 1, it was 1. We've changed that, so it's generic overall. If you hire it, works, and if I hire it again, it goes down. The count's going down, and this is updating a specific row rather than every entry on the page. And this appears to be now working correctly. So what is going on? How is all this working now? I'm going to talk through that now. Okay, probably a good place to start. So in our client application, on the rental, when we hire a vehicle, it pops open a model box. So this is the hire model. Hire model as you click save, if everything is okay, it emits update vehicles and sends the object. Now, what I'm about to show you, you could actually do all of it here in this grandchild, but I've decided to pass it from grandchild to child, from child to parent, and then get the parent to do what I could actually do here. But this is all for, learning purposes. So it emits updated vehicle, and we've changed how it was working before, and it returns this instance list 0, which inside the create route no catch guest rental, which what that means is it means post to guest rental in our URL mappings. Post guest rental calls vehicle rental controller and save action. So in our controllers, vehicle rental controller, the save method is what gets called, and that's the bean that does the validation, and if there's any problems, it returns the errors. otherwise saves, and then runs this internal search, which passes in the ID of the current object once it's saved it. And the internal search then knows that it has to only look up this ID and return that specific instance as such from the listing rather than everything. We've had to go off and do this because we're doing a listing. It's if you look at internal search, it runs vehicle hire service search, and if you look at vehicle hire service, I know I've got so many pages open, it's so difficult to keep up. The search is this query here. So you can see it's a very specific thing, and it does the rating here. So the rating that we see on the screen here is based on this calculation that we just looked at. Where it was here. And that's why we need to go off and get it, because it does a very complex thing, and we need to, always return it the same way as we look at it on the screen. So after it's emitted this object, the instance list object, which is the element itself, updated. That was in the high model. High model was declared by rental vehicle table, and it gets this update vehicles, as it's called it, and it calls this function update vehicle content. Update vehicle content in this child page, because it was from the grandchild, it's come to the child now, gets it plus the vehicle, emits update vehicle. So it does exactly what that page did now. Rental vehicle table was called by rental.view in custom and gets update vehicles, the same as what it did from the grandchild, and calls the same function again. In this function, it does store.dispatch update vehicles. Vehicle object is CV, which is what is received, the current vehicle object. This store dispatch update vehicles is a method that I've created in the vuex storage inside a new vehicle.js file for modules inside the storage. And it takes a parameter, which is the object vehicle. And what it does then is it updates the vuex storage component of the vehicles with this specific item, as in replaces the existing array with this object. So why is the vehicle object now inside storex? Well, I've decided to change it because I learned something new, and I thought let's make it work differently. So rather than it doing a normal fetch route and go off and get it and update the specific objects on this page, what it does is it, as the search is called, which is based on you clicking on one of these offers, that's a different search as such, but the search has been hidden away to accept the make and model and go off and do that search. When that's called, it does this init vehicle and passes in the parameters of whatever the parameters of the search was, which at the moment we can't see because it's a hidden thing inside that button. So what is init vehicle and update vehicle? And how is the vehicles now loaded up now that they're going into vuex, because they're no longer on this page. So what happens is, part of the computed values, there's map getters here from vuex. As part of the computed value, there's the map getters, load vehicles total. Real vehicles becomes this loaded vehicle, which is here. And so these are the getters from vuex now, and we're making real pages, real total equal to whatever comes back from vuex getters. Vuex getters now, and vehicles is now pointing to real vehicles rather than vehicles, which was here. It's no longer any of this. It's just this real vehicles, which is getting created or computed according to vuex storage. So How does that work? In our index, we have vehicles, module vehicles, and vehicles here. That's all we've declared in the index. In modules, vehicles, we've got load vehicles, which is the object that you just seen, params that get passed into it, total number of pages. This part does the replacement in the current array with the new object when you do the update vehicle. Getters, the load vehicles, total pages, this is the getters that it gets. Init vehicles, and this is where it gets the params and does that thing that we was doing in the actual page originally, but we're doing it here within this, and we're setting the state values to what's returned. Update vehicle, you can see here it does this state the load vehicles equals update objects in array, which is this thing here. And this updates that vehicle object, which it puts into an array itself, the actual vehicle object. Okay, so that's what that is. This doesn't get used. It was being here. I don't use it anymore. I'm not sure if you need this. But yeah, this is how it works, what's going on now with the listing that we see on this page. So it's literally a vuex session element now that's being returned as a listing, and every time you click it, that session information is updated to that. The only reason why I did that was just to learn new things. It probably doesn't need to be there. It's just the way of doing new things. So obviously when you do that, when you sorry, we want to sort through a few other things. So we rented out a few vehicles now, and if we go into custom, vehicle 12, and return it, this this model page does front end validation. So if I don't provide the values, the Vue.js now is telling me I need to provide the values, and when you submit it, it refreshes the form element so that you need to it asks you for it again. So at the moment we've given it a rating of 5 on this one, and our stock's gone up to 9. So this was the reg 12. If we go to custom and look at 12 again, return another one, and this time we're going to give it a rating of 1. And if we save it and go back into rental, the ratings drop to 3 now because it's the overall between the 5 and the 1, and that's what it's become. Now stock's gone to 10. So that's our rating now, and how it works. And you've seen the query which does that thing to work out as it's starting doing a search. Did I show you backend validation? I can't remember. I don't think I've shown you backend validation. So there's on this form it does backend validation, which if I put the from date before the to date, it will complain, and if I put the to date to be outside of the current month that the from date's from, it will also complain saying date range doesn't appears to be longer than a month. So how does this work? So this was the save, and it's the vehicle hire bean. It tries to validate the bean. If it's got no errors, it saves the vehicle. If there are errors, it returns the message source of the message that it's got from the errors. And the vehicle hire bean is might as well just go to it. From to date, check dates. If the from date is greater than the to date, invalid from date. If otherwise, if the end of the month is greater than the to date from the from date, longer than a month, and these messages are stored in here, and you've got the translations. And there they are. And that's what we see on the page. And these are driven by, I think they open. Yeah, so request.locale, so whatever comes in as part of the request as part of the locale, that's what gets produced from the message file and sent back to the back end, or the front end, should I say, sorry. This is back end. This is the hiding. This is the errors, if there are errors. When it attempts to save, if there are any errors at the point of save, it captures them and makes the local array of errors equal to the response errors, which errors is a local array locally. And that's controlled by our controller, which we was just in a minute ago. Still in it. By the status code 409, which suggests that it's an error to the back end, to the front end, should I say, sorry. Okay, so the front end validation of the other form now, when we try and return a hire vehicle not provide anything, that is done via custom table. We've wrapped a form tag around it on submit prevent, so it actually doesn't submit the form. This button here does the submit button, but it does that on submit, and it says if we've got a return date 1 and a rating, then go ahead and then make them equal to nothing. Otherwise, say return date required, rating required, as we just seen on the screen. And if you provide 1, then the other one will still show and ask for an import. Okay, so that's that. I think that wraps up this, and it's all working correctly. A couple of things that I've missed out. Also, you can edit the garage entries, and these work slightly differently. And again, they update the row itself. It doesn't do any of that fancy stuff that we've just gone through. It just updates the row. Pagination is working. I want to talk through the pagination. So if we add a new entry as well, then new entry. Sorry, I always like to just ramble away and create really bad entries. So we got that. How's the pagination working on Garage? And as you can see, Garage doesn't do anything fancy with columns, whereas in custom, it has got pagination, and it also does sorting by column names. So there's a difference in the way the searches work and the way the whole backend works for the two of them. In Garage example, if we quickly go, I'm going to quickly go through this, cover this just, also it wasn't recorded. In Garage, we've got this pagination call. Pagination is a page that exists on here. You can probably reuse it, make it better. If you do make it better, let me know. And Garage calls that page and passes in a few things: number of pages, total, current page, and this is what it gets back. So number of pages, vehicles, and total gets set by when it fetches the vehicles, and when it fetches the vehicles, it always sends back the current offset, which is when you've done the page number, which is this thing, page changed thing here. I think when you do the page changed, it does something to say update the page numbers on here somewhere. I can't remember. It was a long time ago that I did all this, so it's in there somewhere. Now, so calls fetch name vehicle. Fetch name calls garage service. Garage service is used quite a lot. and it's in source of the client. Services, garage service, fetch name does I know calls API.get. API is bound into this garage service. API does a lot more complex stuff by binding in the current authorization header as part of the request header and sends in the token into it and sends it to the backend. So each request then has bound to it the user's authenticated token. So the backend picks that out, makes sure the user's authenticated, and then does the request. So fetch name, basically when it calls the API does /API and then whatever it's called. So it was called fetch name vehicle. So API vehicle in our server controller URL mappings. API vehicle, resource vehicle. Resource vehicle means call the domain class vehicle, which is a resource, RESTful resource. But what I've done is I've made it slightly more complicated by introducing a controller for it. Which extends RESTful controller and overrides is a super element of vehicle. So that's how it's overridden it. Index does the default list of resources, but wraps it around return value. Return value number of pages does some other stuff to give you the number of pages. And it always receives the offset from what we saw on the page just a minute ago. So that's how Garage is working, and it's very simple, as in it just has an offset. There's no other complications to the listing. Custom, a lot more complicated, and that goes to components, custom view, same pagination way you use, and the same sort of results that comes back, but has more complications around what gets sent as part of the variables that are sent to the back end, as you can see here. I think I ended up doing this because I had problems passing the params as part of the RESTful, so I've ended up just making my own REST thing and passing the params this way. So, that gets sent, to custom REST. Fetch name again, so API custom REST. So API custom REST gets called custom REST index. So custom REST index calls custom REST service search. There's the bean. Down to the params, number of pages. So it does something slightly similar, or we get back the same amount of, or the same sort of response on the front end, but it's doing a very different thing on the back end. So that calls a service now, which does the search here, and these are the columns that get sorted by the user, the search query, any params that gets passed in as part of the search, because the user can search for a specific thing as well, or they should be able to. Which isn't working. Oh. And yeah, you get my point. There you go. There's one of them working. One of the things are working. Okay. So the pagination for this was decided on literally some of the stuff that's returned from the query, and then the controller itself that did the same sort of thing as the pagination that we just seen. I'll just show you quickly. Hmm. Okay. I think that wraps up the video now. I don't think there's anything else to say about it. I think I've covered everything, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed. If you have any comments or suggestions, feel free to add it to the YouTube videos or to the GitHub project, raise an issue, and I'll try and get back to you. Thank you. Bye bye.